Pretty, Crossed and Tempted by C. Quarles. Ladies, saying no isn't about him, them. It's about protecting us. Chapter 1. An Emotional Mess. Many of us are carrying around unexplainable emptiness, anger, and depression. We're struggling to understand our thoughts, feelings, and unfulfilling situations. Let's be real for a second. Well, actually, let's be real throughout this book. Think about the last partner that you had sex with. What kind of feelings do you have when you think of them? Pleasant or unpleasant feelings? What was the last type of interactions you had with them? Do you agree or disagree with the concept of having sex affects our ability to think rationally, control our attitude, temper, and or emotions? A few years ago, I flew back home to Arkansas to visit my family and friends. Of course, there was no way that I could be in Arkansas without making time to see him. For namesake, I'll call him John. John was a guy that I had met, exchanged numbers with, and over a few years had spent endless amount of text, phone conversations, time, and nights with. Within those nights, I was willingly sharing the deepest part of my mind and body. Those nights of intimacy led to my thoughts and emotions being expended as well. Let me be clear. John wasn't my boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, or any of the actual defined types of statuses. He was the guy that I could call, and when I called, he would answer. There wasn't any uncomfortable situations involving other females calling or stopping by his house. His schedule seemed to always be open for me. He was my best kept secret. My best friend knew of him. His roommate, mother, and sister all knew of me. Well, actually, his mother and sister didn't know about me. They actually met me one day. They went by his job and I happened to be there. No need for a detailed introduction. It was a caught off guard scene, wanting to close my eyes and disappear type of incident. It was one of those when your heart turns into a brick and drops from your chest into your stomach moments. That moment turned into an uncomfortable thought of me not knowing where I stood with him. Was I his friend? Just a friend? Maybe a possibility of being more. Maybe I was just something to do. I never even thought about it until then. Up until that point, and for quite some times after, I was okay with it, for whatever it seemed to be. Fast forward back to me being back home, visiting family and friends, and of course, finding a way to spend time with him, John. It never failed. People had to ask the infamous question, "Are you dating anyone? Are you still single? Have you met anyone on the East Coast yet?" My response, "I'm still single." I was single. There wasn't ever a commitment between John and I, just an understanding that kept us going, an understanding that I had limited understanding of. Yet and still, I was okay with it. There wasn't anyone to introduce as my boyfriend, significant other, or male companion. I couldn't even say that we were dating because we never even discussed dating. The state of not knowing and being unsure was a red flag that I will admit I avoided addressing. Without addressing, more of my time and energy withered. My feelings was hurt and more of my emotion were shredded in the sharp blender of reality. The reality that I wanted more. I wanted the comfort, commitment, and security of a commitment. After hearing various relationship stories from females, friends, family members, co-workers, associates, and the different articles in relation to the hardships and challenges of new age dating, I began to realize that my uncertainties with John was being experienced by women and unnamed Johns everywhere. I read an online article published by Psychology Today. The article discussed how the growth and process of technology has caused the process of dating to move more rapidly. People used to meet, talk, either in person or on the phone, spend time by walking in the high school halls together, attending school or public events over the weekends, go out to eat, introduce one another to family and friends for approval, and were very vocal about being in a relationship together. Now, people meet, They message one another, text, inbox, or use another messaging application, in which has replaced dating. Almost instantly, comments and advances are being made towards sex. Social media repeatedly shows us all the time the annoying fleets changes in relationship statuses. On Monday, Lauren is in a relationship with Tommy. On Tuesday, he's the best thing that ever happened to her. Then, on Friday, it's complicated, and on Sunday, she's happily single. This, my dears, bothers me. Relationships are moving way too fast, and women, we're exposing ourselves far too much. Too much pain and mayhem. But why? Why is it now that a woman can't sustain as a prominent being if she's single? Is the push for us to be with somebody in order to be somebody the reason we go along with all of the drama with guys that are on a level of being a nobody? Nobody that we should invest ourselves in. Instinct is for a man and a woman to be together. We're naturally drawn to one another. The fundamental structure of humanity is based on intercourse of a woman and a man. But let's be honest, emotions, expectations, and people change after sex. In 2007, Cosmopolitan published a phenomenal article affirming why women should, in fact, wait to sleep with guys while dating. A man wrote the article. How awesome is that? He discussed how sharing our goods too soon work against us more than for us in the game of dating. Before that, in 2006, USA Today published a commentary displaying data from a national survey of family growth, estimating that 95% of the 40,000 people interviewed shared that they had engaged in sex before marriage. With this, I wonder how much of the lack of respect for esteem and honoring for us, women, come from the adverse perceptions that we've helped create, our lack of reverence for our sexuality. I believe that having sex will be more personal and reverent if we held it to its higher esteem. I'm not talking to you. I'm speaking to us. What would dating be like if daily dealings with people, shows, movies, and music fostered sexuality more respectfully? I hope that by opening up and sharing some of my most private and embarrassing moments, I can help you to identify, get through, and pass some of your most hurtful dealings that involves from not seeing how having casual sex can, and in many cases, has affected us poorly. Before we move on, let's recap. I'm a single, now 30 plus young woman. John is a guy that I had an undefined situationship with in my 20s, mid-20s. I've been engaged 1.5 times. Yes, that is possible. I found out that my second ex was looking at rings and planning to propose, so I called it off before he could ask. Don't side-eye me. Judging is not allowed. Shall we continue? After speaking to my ex about it, he understood and we agreed that the breakup was best. I grew up seeing my mom and none of my 5 aunts or grandmother maintain a relationship in marriage. I grew up seeing that marriages were for the more financially stable, well-off families or the people that went to church. Now in my 30s, after several unfruitful relationships, brokenness from those dealings, and research pertaining to ill-advised relationship guidelines, I have better understanding towards why relationships are working against us. Not only that, but I understand better the irrational emotional side of me as well. You can agree or disagree, but I honestly believe that for us women to regain the respect, value that we rightfully deserve, we must take ownership of the things that we have allowed due to holding on to the dysfunctional relationships because of the emotional ties that come along with being sexually involved with someone. I'm not saying that you can't experience these things without being sexually connected. I'm solely addressing how casual sex has and is causing us depression, low self-esteem, no self-appreciation, insecurities, and doubt, to name a few. We must recognize that we have allowed the significance of sexuality to become a mere something to do. Before I continue, I would like to say that yes, I am a believer. I wasn't raised in church. I was raised in a very secular single parent household. The majority of my childhood, I was in the home with my mother and older sister. As an adult, I am open about sharing my beliefs. However, I am not writing this book as a tool to push my spirituality on anyone. After research, prayer, re-evaluating of self, and decisions that I have made through plenty of me time and comparing life experiences with other women, the substance of this book is coming from the angle of a once confused, misunderstood, unappreciated, but aiming to get it right woman. I will reference the Bible from time to time throughout the reading. I am aware that I will have readers from different backgrounds, religions, nationalities, shoe sizes, and body types. Regardless of the various spiritual religious differences that we may have, many of us know that the sexual relationship should be established in respect and maturity. Now, no matter what your perspective may be, I urge you to read on anyways. Everything said in this book may not ring true to you, but I promise you, some things will. I do not write to make anyone feel badly about yourselves, but to help as many women to love ourselves more protectively than ever before. I lost my virginity at a very early age. Don't judge me. I am not, nor have I ever tried to be an image of perfection. I will say that I have always tried to reflect character of honorable mention. My reputation has always been important to me. Growing up, we were told not to have sex. There were no whys that can't be. God was limited in my household. We were taught to pray, that God existed, and went to church from time to time. I even experienced the had to sing in youth choir, say an Easter speech, and I knew church practices and traditions, such as taking communion. But as far as being taught of protecting my purity and honoring my husband with my sexuality, I didn't get that. I wasn't taught the importance of not having sex to shield myself from emotional damage that comes along with having casual sex and the difficulty of experiencing a breakup or rejection after sharing myself sexually. You know that aching in your stomach or nauseous feeling you get when he doesn't answer your call after you slept with him? Or how about the stages of anger, sadness, and emptiness that you feel when you see or hear about him being with someone else and you begin to question yourself? What's wrong with you? Why you weren't good enough? What you mean or meant to him? Did you care too much? Next time, you'll be sure to decrease your level of care. That's just touching the surface. Truth be told, had we not shared our intimacy with him or them, we wouldn't have cared so deeply. It's easy to move on when you haven't invested much. I look back at myself and laugh. I had said and done some very immature things in my dating experiences. Still to this day, my best friend laughs out loud at me for many of those actions too. For example, in college, I met a guy. It was after my engagement breakup, so I was an emotional wreck, but didn't realize it. I met a handsome young fella. He was about 20 or 21 at the time, 6'1", had a gorgeous smile and gentle, sweet eyes. He had a body that was utterly sculpted by the hand of God himself and crafted with the magic weights of football training. Handsome and mannerable, might I add. He was always a gentleman to me. There was never any sexual advances. That is almost impossible to find in college life. Leave it to any broken-spirited female, we can find something wrong with every level of good. Young and handsome came to visit me in my dorm one day. One of those in my feelings type of days. You know, one of those days that something is wrong but nothing has happened, so there's really no reason to feel that there's something wrong. But the uneasiness in our stomach, probably coming from the spending too much time soaking in my past, revealed to me that the things were not right. Hey everybody, I hope you have enjoyed what you've heard so far of Pretty Crossed and Tempted. You can order a full copy of the book on Amazon.com or my website, sequarrels.org. It is available on Kindle for my ebook readers. And for you audio listeners, don't worry, I got you. The full audio version is on its way.